welcome to another episode of Purvis Versus. My name is Eric Purvis. I'm a registered massage therapist, course creator, continuing education provider, and curriculum advisor for massage therapy education. I am passionate about advancing massage therapy towards current science and adopting evidence-based best practices. Thank you for listening and being here today. If you enjoy my podcast, please share it on social media and subscribe so you can be notified of all new episodes. This podcast is also available to be viewed and listened to on YouTube, so please check us out there. Hey everybody, thanks for being here today. This is going to be just me today, just chatting with you. Happy New Year. This is my end of the year, Happy New Year episode. And I just wanted to take some time just to kind of go through and talk about some of the events of 2023 that are worth mentioning, as well as telling you, my loyal listeners, what is up with me for 2024. It's crazy to me to feel or to see that there's the end of another year. I know when I was younger, and probably most of you feel the same way, that your parents and your grandparents would say things like, "Oh, when you get my age, time just flies." And maybe I'm at that age now. I don't like to think I am, but I do feel that time goes by pretty darn quick. It's crazy to think that 4 years ago we were just on the verge of COVID hitting our lives and changing the world and really impacting all of us in some way, shape or form. And so that was 4 years ago now, and I just find that really crazy to think. So I wanted to say, just first off, for those of you that are here and listening, so thank you very much for being supportive of my podcast. I launched my first episode in April of 2023, and I started recording my episodes the end of 2022, and I wanted to make sure I had a good library of them first before I launched the podcast. And I still have quite a few new ones to put out for next year, for 2024, and I'm really excited about the guests and the topics that we are going to explore. What I would like to say, though, is that if there are any topics that you guys are interested in, or any guests or things that you would like to hear more about, please let me know, because I enjoy doing these podcasts, but I'm happy to explore some things that you, my listeners, are looking to hear more about. So if you have any comments or any suggestions, please feel free to contact me. Easiest way probably is to send me an email, which is hello@ericpurvis.com, ERICPURVES. Or you can send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, which is just Eric Purvis RMT, and let me know what you think. The thing that's kind of funny with doing these podcasts is that you never really know who is listening. And, I get my stats of how many downloads I've had and how many minutes and what countries are from. But unless somebody actually tells me they're listening, I actually have no idea. So one thing I would love for you, if you are listening to this episode right now, pause it and connect with me. Let me know whether you post it on social media and you can tag me, or you can just take a minute to send me an email and say, "Hey, I'm listening to your podcast." I would love to hear that, because I have no idea who actually is listening to these things. There's quite a few of you that are, and that's fantastic. But I would like to put some names to the download numbers. And just speaking of download numbers, actually, this is a thing that's kind of fun. I'm all about numbers and data and stats and those kind of things. But when I got a notification here for end of the year through my podcast, through Buzzsprout, who I do my podcast through, and I have no idea if this is good or not, but it said my podcast is in the top 50% of all podcasts. So I don't know. I mean, there's millions of podcasts out there, probably, so it's probably not saying much, but hey, it's better than being in the, maybe I'm 50.1%. I don't know. I was surprised to see that. And I was really excited to see, too, that this year that my podcast was listened to in 15 different countries, which to me it just blew my mind. I would have thought, where do I know people from, that follow me? Canada, the US, the UK, New Zealand, Australia. That's 5. So there's 10 other countries out there that people are listening from. So yeah, let me know if you are listening to this. Let me know where you're from. Not just, don't just connect with me and say, hi, my name is, John Smith, and I listen. Just say, yeah, I'm John Smith, and I'm from wherever. I'd like to know where you're from, what countries are listening to this. And what also it's exciting about the podcast is that there has been an increase in number of downloads and listenership since every episode seems to get faster in terms of how many people reach a certain threshold of downloads. So that's exciting to see. So I'm really appreciative of that. It has been interesting, though, doing this podcast compared to how when I did the other one with my friend Jamie, the Massage Therapist Development Initiative, is that, when you're doing this on your own, they're actually quite a bit more work than I would have expected. I've been on so many people's podcasts over my years, and even doing that one with Jamie, I didn't realize how much time and it took to do these. So it's been a learning curve for me in terms of the scripting and the connecting with guests, and then the editing and the putting in the sounds, and then putting in the little clips to put on social media, which is usually put on Instagram and Facebook. It's been quite time consuming. So one of the things that I was able to do this year that's made that process a little bit easier for me is I was able to hire my first assistant. So some of you may have had connections with Kate. She's my virtual assistant, and she takes care of a lot of the kind of back end stuff of the things that I do, which includes a lot of the stuff for the podcast. So that's exciting. That's something I never thought that I would need or want. But one thing I have learned over the last number of years is that time is a finite resource, and when you can pay somebody else to help you, to take time, to give you more time, it's worth every penny. So I'm really appreciative of Kate and the work that she's been able to do for me. And so if ever anybody contacts me through email, and if you contact me at the support@ericpurvis.com email, that actually goes to Kate. So she also does a lot of my social media stuff. So if you ever do get a chance to connect with her, just to say hi and appreciate, say thank you, because she's definitely making my life a lot easier. I didn't realize how many hours I was spending doing things until I had her support. But in addition to the success of Purvis Versus is, this last year I started actually doing my first paid work as in curriculum development. And this has been something that's been really, really exciting, and it's something I'm really passionate about. And if anyone that has taken courses from me, or you guys that listen to this podcast or other podcasts I'm on, I'm really passionate about, changing in a positive way the profession of massage therapy by advancing us and moving towards science and best practices, and really just like using the evidence to inform what it is that we do so that we can provide higher value care to the people that come to seek our support and our treatments. And so I've done a lot of work with schools and a lot of talks with different schools across the country, and the barrier that I hear consistently from everyone, and I've probably worked with I'd have to stop and count, but I've probably done at least 10 different schools. I've contacted, or I've been in contact with the deans of education, and I've had the opportunity just to speak to classes and about different things depending on what the topic that they want to explore. And we often the feedback I always get, I shouldn't say often, the feedback I always get from the students is, why don't we learn this stuff in school? If this is what the science is saying, why don't we learn this in school? And it's a delicate discussion to have, because you don't want to throw the schools or the instructors under the bus. But the barrier always is we're just, we have to give the students based on the competency documents. We have to teach them based on the approved textbooks from the regulatory colleges. And I understand that, and I'm appreciative of that. And then it's kind of sucks because it's a big barrier when a school has to teach outdated content. But I've been a huge believer and a huge advocate for a long time that you can still teach based on those competency documents and get students to pass tests, but giving them the current science and best practices. And I know that there's a way to do that. Often there's barriers. People, other schools didn't want to invest in it or didn't feel that it was their job because it's a business and they were just pumping out students, and that's fine, and I can understand that. But what I was really excited about though this year in 2023 was the lovely people at Vickers School of Massage Therapy in Alberta reached out to me and hired me as a curriculum advisor, and it has been some of the most rewarding work that I've ever done. The team there of educators and the owner are wanted to basically redo a curriculum that was based on current best science, best practices. They wanted to get rid of or revamp the way things were being done, which was very, structural, postural, biomechanical focus, and, incorporate how do we keep the kind of traditions of massage therapy? How do we keep the information there that students are going to need to answer on a board exam, but how can we also inform the students with the current science? And they have done a fantastic job at revamping their curriculum from what I have seen. And the work that I've done with them has been really, really, really exciting. And the faculty they have there seems to be on board with it. And I am convinced and excited that that they're going to have a lot of success, and the students that are coming out of that school in the next few years are probably going to be at a very high level of knowledge, which is exciting to see. And so fingers crossed. I look forward to seeing what the completed curriculum is. But they won't start launching it until near the end of 2024, I believe. But if anyone here is listening to this episode or listens to this, or someone an educator, or faculty at school, or people that own a school, or you work at a school, anything, you can change the curriculum. You can change how things are being taught without having to completely gut the current program. Ideally, that would be fantastic. But for what I think is a worthwhile investment, you can make big changes in the content and start putting therapists out there in the world that don't have their heads filled with useless or unhelpful information. And informing them so that they understand what the current science says about how do we treat people with pain, the current science about how manual therapy works, loaded up with lots of the soft skills that are necessary for communication and listening, and for how to use movement and exercise and exploration of touch into a program is possible. And so if you are listening and you want to hear my thoughts on that, or if you want to have a conversation about that, please, again, connect with me. Send me a message, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. So Vickers School of Massage Therapy in Alberta, good for you guys. I'm really excited to be working with you, and that's been a big thing with me in 2023 that I'm really proud of, and I look forward to continuing my work with them throughout 2024. Also, too, another thing to look forward to in 2024, which is as I have created a couple new courses, and I created them in 2023, and I taught them a couple times as kind of more of these, see how they go and try and learn and develop them even more to make them better. But I did create two new courses. They're called Research to Practice for lower back and pelvic pain. Another one's called Research to Practice for the neck and shoulder. And what I did is all my other courses that I've done over the last number of years have had a lot of theory in them and a lot of information heavy stuff, a lot of myth busting. And, they're more information based and discussion based rather than super heavy practical. So what I wanted to do with these kind of next bunch of courses is I wanted to take a further step more into what do we do with this information. Right, if you are familiar or comfortable with kind of the pain science stuff and kind of most of the evidence-based practice kind of things, then these courses I think are for you in terms of like how do we take that information and how do we apply that in these regional areas, right? How do we assess? How do we and what assessments do we use? Which ones do we throw away? Because we know there's lots of stuff out there that that talks about how most assessments aren't valid or reliable. They don't have their sensitivity and specificity isn't really that great. So these new courses, we're focusing on how to assess, basically call assessment made simple, and then how do we, what do we do with our hands with this information? Like how do we, if we're going to be evidence based and we understand the what I don't want to say limitations, but if we understand what we do when we have our hands on people, how do we incorporate these things into treatment? Because a lot of stuff I say is right, just touch people nicely, make people feel good, but what does that actually look like in practice? And so these courses, what I've done is I've really tried to make them as practical as possible. So you get your hands on people, you get to practice different techniques. I'm going to show you, my 16 years of experience clinically to try to do different things with people and give you some perspectives on how to touch people nicely and maybe a way that's different from how you would have learned in other classes. And so the similarities in low back and pelvic pain in terms of how the course is taught, it follows a very similar format, right? We go through a little bit of the what do we call it? A rehash or a reminder of kind of some of the pain science stuff, and then we go from there into kind of the current like regional specific things, like how do we determine if it's like sciatica or like a pseudo sciatica type thing, or like is it radicular pain, or is it like just mechanical low back pain, or is it like is there things coming from the neck or the shoulder? Like, is it frozen shoulder? Is it, do you have pain in the rotator cuff from maybe it's a tendinopathy, or maybe it's, a tear, sprain, strain, these kind of things. So we go through all the different kind of regional presentations, how to assess them, how to treat them, and then we focus a lot on like how do we incorporate movement while the person is on and off the table in what I say is a less prescriptive way. So it's giving you, the clinician, freedom to not have to follow a lot of specific rules. Now, I'll give you some protocols in these courses, and kind of so you have something to follow, but it's not something that it has to be prescribed a specific way. So this is what I've done with my new courses. I thought, I'm still teaching potentially my chronic pain courses and these other ones that I've been doing for a while, but the new ones I thought would be fun. So I spent a good chunk of 2023 just basically getting out there and reflecting on what I've done and what I want to do, and this is what I've come up with. And I did them twice this year. I did one low back and pelvic pain and one neck and shoulder one. The feedback I heard was pretty good, and so I've even developed them even more to make them a little bit more practical. So that's exciting. So if you are listening and you want to take one of these courses, you can. All of my courses are on my website, which is ericpurvis.com/courses. But April 20th and 21st, I'm going to be in Calgary. So this is my lower back and pelvic pain course. And then June 8th and 9th, I'm going to be in Kelowna for the neck and shoulder. That one's already got a bunch of sales, so I'm excited that my BC colleagues are looking forward to taking that one. I'm hoping that one will probably sell out sooner than later. So that's exciting. And I also got a couple new locations this year where I'm going to be presenting and teaching. I'm going to be actually in Albany, New York on July 27th, 28th. And this is going to be for a neck and shoulder course. So if anybody here is listening and you live in the state of New York, this is approved by the NCB TMB, and it is approved for 16 credits, and it is got approved for the New York sponsorship as well. And so I'm going to be teaching that one. So that should be fun. And I'm going to also be in May, I'm going to be teaching at MTAM, so the Massage Therapist Association of Manitoba, at their annual conference. I'm going to be doing, last year I did a 2-day low back and pelvic pain course. That was my first time I taught this version of that course. But this year I'm breaking it up and I'm doing a couple shorter little presentations. I'm doing one on fibromyalgia, which is just a half day. I'm doing a full day on the neck and shoulder, which is going to be just basically the 2-day course on fast forward, just kind of give you the main components of that. And I'm doing another presentation in there for another just little lecture presentation on osteoarthritis. So that should be fun. And also another thing that's exciting for this year for me is I'm going to be presenting my first conference in the United States. My fibromyalgia management presentation for massage therapists was accepted by the AMTA as one of their presentations for next year in Tampa, Florida. So I'm going to be there on September 12th. So that should be fun. I've never been to Florida. It's a long ways to go for just a 3-hour presentation, but I am looking forward to that. So that should be exciting. And kind of last but not least, for one thing that I've decided to do for 2024, which is going to be something I started this last year, and I did a couple webinars. I've decided to do 6 of them this year. So last year I did a fibromyalgia webinar, I did a neck and shoulder webinar, and these ones were kind of just testers to see, do people want to take like a 90-minute or 2-hour webinar? Is it valuable for them? It's hard to teach practical stuff in a webinar format. But what I did do with the neck and shoulder one is I did include about 20 minutes of recorded videos for a couple assessment and movement things, a couple hands-on things, and a couple rehab type stuff. And so and they were well attended, and I really appreciated everybody being there, and I really appreciated the feedback on how to make them better. So I'm going to do 6 different webinars for 2022, and these are going to be spread out throughout the year, and I've got a couple new ones in here as well. Some of the new ones that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing one on assessment and measurement. So this is something that keeps coming up. I find in the world of massage therapy is people aren't really sure about how to do specific assessment and measurements, and how to document that, and how to submit that stuff to insurance companies, or how to submit that stuff to even get treatments approved. We are starting to see more and more insurance companies that are being a little bit funny and finicky about approving treatments, or asking for RMTs to document why treatments have been going on for long periods of time. So I figured that this is from some conversations I've had with people over the last year, but definitely over the last few months, that this is something that people are concerned about. So part of my master's degree, I did an entire section on, basically evidence-based assessment and measurement, and what do we use? Like, what actually gives us an objective measure that we can document, and so we can show to not just our clients or patients, but also to the insurance companies to say, hey, look, this is what the person came in with, this is what our findings were, and this is how and this is our treatment plan, and this is how they've improved or not. So what this my assessment and measurement webinar, which I'm doing on April 8th. And this one's going to be more BC specific, but I'm going to be doing it twice this year. I'm going to be doing one in April, and another one is going to be in November 13th. The November 13th one isn't on my website yet, but the April 8th one is. You can find it on the ericpurvis.com/courses. This is going to be basically take you through like what should we do and what shouldn't we do. So a lot of the ways that we learned massage therapy and assessment was we learned things like a verbal, like a numerical pain scale. We learned range of motion. We learned that we're supposed to be able to have like objective palpation things. And what we realize when we look at the science is that stuff doesn't really tell us a lot. What really we need more patient-reported outcome measures, which are standardized and which are consistently shown to give reliable scores for people over time. And there's different measurement instruments that you can use for different areas of the body. Like for the neck, there's a couple we can use for the neck. For the low back, there's a couple we can use for the low back. There's these general functional scores that we can provide as well. There's ones for the arm, there's ones for the lower extremity, and there's ones that are specific just to pain, and pain generally, or pain in specific regions of the body. So with this, the reason I want to do this webinar is I want to give RMTs the tools and the confidence to say, hey, patient comes in after a motor vehicle accident, or patient comes in after a workplace accident, or this patient's been coming in for time and time and time again with the same kind of low back pain. How can I assess them? How can I record an accurate measurement? And then how could I use that to justify a treatment plan, or to support a treatment plan, or to decide that, hey, maybe now's the time to refer out? This is something that I don't think we are educated well on in our profession. So this webinar, I'm hoping, is an opportunity to share some of that stuff with you, and so I've tried to make them as low cost as possible, and make them as accessible as possible. So you can find those on my website. I've also decided to do some more practical webinars as well in terms of like treatment stuff. I found last year that doing these webinars kind of throughout the year was such a great way to connect with people from all over the world, and getting people to register and take these webinars and learn with me and learn with other RMTs a really useful way, which is simplicity is key, right? We don't want to have to travel. We want to be able to learn from the comfort of our home often. So these webinars are a way of doing that. So I'll be doing one on the low back and pelvis. I'm going to be doing one on fibromyalgia again. I'm going to do one specifically on chronic pain, that's kind of my meat and potatoes one. I like that one. I've been doing that one the longest. So that'll just be a short webinar on that. These will all be about 90 minutes to 2 hours maximum. And I'll be doing one on osteoarthritis, which is a newish one as well. So I'm going to be doing another one called The Science of Massage, and that'll be a fun one too. And that's going to look at all of the what does massage therapy do? What happens within that clinical encounter? What happens when we put our hands on people? What happens when we, interact with people? What's the science currently say is the less wrong explanation for that? So that'll be something I'm excited about doing as well this year. So there are lots of things going on in 2024, which are all exciting. A bunch of live courses, bunch of webinars, still have some of the curriculum development going on, and as well as I have the this podcast and to keep this going. So I'm going to keep this episode short, just I wanted to keep it for like less than 30 minutes, so I could just kind of give you guys a thank you, talk about my the successes of my podcast this year, and just to give you, my listeners, a heads up of what is happening with me for next year. So you can, if any of these things interest you, you can find those on my website and participate and register for these courses, whether they're webinars or in person. So thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast network so you can be notified of all future episodes. And also, if you want to watch or listen on YouTube, subscribe, like it there. And please, I would really appreciate your support to share the podcast, or share specific episodes on your social media platforms. And please tag me. I'd really appreciate to see who's listening and what you have to say and what you liked about the episodes. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, if you can, connect with me. Say, hey, yes, Eric, I listen. This is where I live. Thank you very much for putting these out, or this is what I'd like to see more of. Your feedback is really appreciated. So thank you again for all your support in 2023. Happy New Year to each of you, and I look forward to connecting with as many of you as possible, whether it's live or online in 2024. Thank you.